bring the peoples of the earth closer together. It'll give them a different sense of themselves as a race. We'll realize we're not alone in the universe, that we're part of a much larger family of intelligent races, conscious peoples, if you will. And I think also there's going to be some major technological implications as well. Because the first question, and this is probably one of the major reasons why this topic has been kept quiet so long, the first question that one might ask, even the man or woman on the street is going to ask, well, if there are these peoples from other planets and they're here visiting us, how did they get here? Did they have to come at the speed of light and take 400 to hundreds of years to get here, even at the speed of light, or did they come using some other technology? Well, they're going to find out, of course, that they're using some other technology, and they don't have to travel at the speed of light. They travel at superluminal speeds, semi-instantaneously, if you want to put it in those sort of terms. And so that at that point, you can say, holy mackerel, these technologies could, if used in a peaceful way, benefit our Earth civilization in a major way. And so then where do they get the energy to travel these great speeds? And then we start to look into the energy. They aren't using jet fuel. They aren't using coal to get here. They're using technologies that the average guy on the street, the average physicist in a university doesn't have any clue about, and yet it's very real. So the implications are for hopefully a planetary society that does not, can go beyond the coal and oil and those aspects. In fact, one of the major problems I've seen and talked about for years on our planet is that this planet is basically offering its people a several hundred, maybe about 100-year, 150-year window to develop new technologies. There's about 150 years, you can argue the numbers of coal and fossil fuels on this planet that have been laid down over hundreds of millions of years. We have a very short time to go from burning wood to oil and coal and nuclear to a sustainable energy. And if we blow it because we haven't gotten our act together, we're toast. I was appointed by the governor of the state to attend a congressional briefing, a closed congressional briefing on this topic with people like Edgar Mitchell speaking about the reality of this and what have you. And they say, oh, really? Tell me more. So that's one reaction of my scientific colleagues on a one-to-one basis. Well, this is very interesting. Part of this gentleman's problems was he was a civilian but had done a lot of work with NASA on a lot of committees and what have you. And I think his problem was the fact that he hadn't heard about this as being a real subject. And he knew that he was very important because he was on a lot of committees in NASA. And since he was very important but hadn't heard about this thing, this couldn't be true. Because since he was important, he would have heard about it. You see the logic there? And he sort of said, oh, okay. And so he went on and on and on. But as the conversation went on and I told him more about what I knew and the reality of these things, he got colder and colder toward our discussion. And it started off very warm because we both knew a lot of mutual people. And so there was sort of a coming together in that sense. And I realized afterwards that he was very threatened by this knowledge because what the particular job that he was doing in NASA would be majorly impacted by the knowledge that there are extraterrestrials already here on this planet, visiting our planet, and that they have the ability to travel through space and what have you. And so my sense was that his raison d'etre, the reason that he works at NASA and his ego is sort of wrapped up in this, would no longer be as valid a reason if what I was saying was true. And so he pulled back from it. And then he said a very curious thing. I wouldn't believe it even if it was real. This is a direct quote from his email to me. I would not believe this even if it was real. And then he went on, but if you learn anything more about this, let me know. So you can say, so I was left with this, forget it. I'm not going to, if your mind is so closed that you make a statement, I wouldn't believe it even if it was real. It tells me we have a major problem with scientists in our universities in getting them to accept something different than their paradigms that they're so used to or been grown up with. That's a major problem within our whole universities. Interestingly enough, the students that I've lectured to are far more open-minded than the professors. And I'm a professor, and I deal with these people all the time. A couple other points to keep in mind is that the Roswell and similar events in New Mexico in the late 40s allowed certain parts of the U.S. government to obtain downed craft, extraterrestrial craft. Since that time, that was late 40s, it's now 50-some years later, since then the black projects have pumped hundreds of billions, that's hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe approaching $1 trillion, I don't know the number, it's big. It's bigger than Bill Gates, have pumped these untold billions of dollars into researching the technologies, reverse engineering these technologies such as anti-gravity and space travel and a whole bunch of technologies that are associated with extraterrestrial technologies allowing these space travel to occur and other aspects of that. Now, if you've just put in several hundred billions of dollars into something, you can be doggone sure that something's come out of that. And people have told me that we had spent a tremendous amount of money by the mid-50s on anti-gravity. There's anti-gravity literature in the public domain, and there's a tremendous amount going on there. So I've heard from a number of different quarters that we have anti-gravity techniques actually in craft that can fly as discs. In fact, it is my sense of things from a number of different sources that the vast majority of extraterrestrial, quote, extraterrestrial craft that people observe in the United States and other parts of the world are not extraterrestrial. They're actually our military or our covert black ops people. That these are fully reverse engineered. What are sometimes known as alien reproduction vehicles, ARVs. These are craft that have been reverse engineered, and I've seen some. I saw a craft a few years ago, which I thought at the time was extraterrestrial. At this point, I mean, you can't tell when they're in the distance, but at this point, I think probably it was a V-shaped craft heading down the Barbara Channel, witnessed by somebody else, both of us, night vision, $1,500 night vision scope. And this craft was traveling between 4,000 and 8,000 miles an hour down the Santa Barbara Channel. And Tony Craddock and I witnessed this with night vision. Both of us had night vision. We both saw it at the same time. And it was hauling. And I thought it was actually...
There was a disc escorted by jets in Sedona 2 years ago.
That's and I was thinking exactly the one I was thinking of. In Sedona 2 years ago, when I was there with a whole group of CSETI people again, we saw an alien reproduction vehicle escorted by jets, U.S. jets, flying with this object that was acting totally different than the jets. It was silent. It was moving differently than the jets. As I know CSETI is to try to get the federal government, i.e. our both legislative and executive branches, to come to grips with this in a public manner, to get the Senate or the House, congressional branches to hold hearings on the subject to get it out. That doesn't seem to be happening. They seem to be scared to death of it, and for all kinds of reasons that politicians are scared of anything dangerous. They seem to be scared to death of it. I had serious hopes that the executive branch might be willing to come out with this, but I've actually asked questions of Al Gore in the public forum about this. I know that President Clinton has received briefings on this information. He knows it's real, but he hasn't been willing to come forth as well. So as a scientist and one who knows this subject,